Never in human history have we been wealthier, more technologically advanced, or more capable of shaping the world around us. We've split atoms, mapped the human genome, built global communication systems, and flown to the moon. And yet, we feel completely powerless in the face of climate change. Picture this. Right now, somewhere in the world, a farmer is checking his weather app for the third time today. The forecast keeps changing. Last week, his grandfather's rain prediction method, watching the way ants move, was more accurate than meteorologists. That farmer represents something bigger than we realize. I've spent years trying to understand why climate change feels impossible to solve, and honestly, the more I dig into it, the more I realize we've been asking the wrong questions entirely. We keep looking for villains and heroes in a story that's actually about systems so complex they make your smartphone look like a pocket calculator. Let me start with something that blew my mind last month. You know those massive container ships that carry everything from your iPhone to your coffee? Just 15 of the largest ones produce more pollution than all the cars in the world combined. 15 ships. There are over 60,000 merchant vessels on the ocean right now. When I first heard that statistic, I had to Google it 3 times because it seemed impossible. But here's the kicker. Those ships exist because we want cheap stuff. Every time you buy something online and it arrives in 2 days, you're participating in a system that prioritizes speed and cost over everything else. I'm not pointing fingers here. I ordered toothpaste from Amazon yesterday instead of walking to the store. We're all caught in this web. The real problem isn't that people are evil or stupid. The real problem is that we've built a civilization that works really, really well for humans and terribly for everything else. Think about your morning routine. Coffee beans grown in Colombia, shipped to Germany for roasting, then to your local store. Your phone manufactured in China with materials mined in Africa. Your breakfast eggs from chickens that ate corn grown with fertilizer made from natural gas extracted in Texas. Every single step in that chain creates emissions. Not because someone is trying to destroy the planet, but because that's how we designed efficiency. And changing it means changing everything. I was talking to an energy economist recently, and she told me something that kept me awake for 3 nights. She said, the amount of concrete we've poured in the last 20 years is equal to all the concrete poured in human history before 2000. Concrete, just concrete, accounts for 8% of global emissions, more than all of aviation. But concrete is also how we build schools, hospitals, affordable housing. You can't just stop making concrete without deciding who doesn't get to live in a safe building. This is where the climate conversation gets uncomfortable, because every solution creates new problems. Take electric cars. Everyone loves talking about electric cars. I drive one, actually, and I feel pretty good about it until I remember that the lithium in my battery was mined by workers earning $3 a day in Bolivia. The mining process uses about 500,000 gallons of water per ton of lithium, in one of the driest regions on Earth. But wait, it gets weirder. If every car in America became electric tomorrow, which sounds great, we need to triple our electricity production. Where's that power coming from? Right now, most of it would still come from fossil fuels. So you'd have electric cars powered by coal plants. It's like laundering emissions through the grid. The food situation is even more bonkers. I read this study that calculated how much land we'd need if everyone ate like Americans. The answer? We need 1.7 Earths, just for the farming, not counting cities, forests, or anywhere for the other species to live. And meat. God, where do I even start with meat? I love a good burger, but the numbers are insane. Livestock uses 77% of agricultural land, but provides only 18% of our calories. We're literally feeding cows more food than we eat ourselves. In fact, if cows were a country, they'd be the 3rd largest greenhouse gas emitter after China and the United States. I tried going vegetarian for 6 months. Made it 4. Not because I don't care, but because changing your diet is harder than changing your religion. Food is culture, identity, comfort. Asking people to give up meat is like asking them to give up part of who they are. And frankly, shaming people about their food choices usually just makes them eat more meat out of spite. Here's something that really frustrates me about climate discussions. We pretend like it's rich people versus poor people, but the reality is messy, eh? The richest 1% of humans produce more emissions than the bottom 50% combined. That sounds damning until you realize that richest 1% includes basically anyone making over $34,000 a year globally. If you're reading this on your own internet connection, in your own heated home, you're probably in that 1%. Meanwhile, 63% of emissions come from developing countries. These aren't people flying private jets to climate conferences. These are people who just got electricity for the first time, or who finally can afford a motorcycle instead of walking everywhere. Telling them to be more environmentally conscious is like telling someone who just learned to read that they should use less paper. I spent some time in rural India last year, and I met this family that had just gotten their first refrigerator. The grandmother was so proud. She kept opening it to show me the light inside. That refrigerator probably uses more electricity in a month than her family used in their entire lives before they got it. But it also means her grandchildren won't get sick from spoiled food, and her daughter won't spend 4 hours a day walking to buy fresh groceries. So what do you tell that grandmother? Sorry, the planet can't afford your refrigerator? That's not a conversation anyone wants to have. The technology situation is equally frustrating. We have solutions, really good ones, but they're expensive and nobody wants to pay for them. Direct air capture technology exists right now. We can literally suck carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and turn it into stone. It's not science fiction. There are companies doing it. But it costs about $600 per ton of CO2 removed. We emit 40 billion tons per year. Do the math. That's $24 trillion annually. That's more than the GDP of the United States. Solar panels are getting cheaper every year, which is amazing. But solar panels don't work at night, and batteries big enough to power cities are still incredibly expensive. Germany tried going all in on renewable energy, and their electricity prices became some of the highest in the world. People started burning wood to heat their homes because it was cheaper than the green electricity. Wind power is fantastic until you realize that wind turbines kill about 600,000 birds per year in North America alone. I'm not anti-wind power. I think it's crucial, but every solution has trade-offs that nobody likes talking about. The political situation makes everything worse. Climate change is probably the only issue where short-term thinking guarantees long-term disaster, but politics rewards short-term thinking. Politicians get elected every few years. Climate change operates on century timescales. It's like asking someone planning a weekend barbecue to worry about their retirement savings. And the lobbying? Christ, the lobbying. ExxonMobil spent $12 million on lobbying last year. That's more than most environmental organizations spend on everything combined. They're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. They've known about climate change since the 1970s. Their own scientists predicted it accurately. But they also know that keeping the status quo profitable is easier than building something new. I used to think carbon taxes would solve everything. Make pollution expensive, and companies will find alternatives. Simple economics. But then France tried raising gas taxes to fight climate change, and people rioted in the streets for months. The Yellow Vest protests weren't really about climate policy. They were about a government asking working-class people to pay more while rich people kept flying private jets. That's when I realized that climate change isn't really an environmental problem. It's a fairness problem. People will sacrifice for the future if they trust that everyone else is sacrificing too. But if it feels like a scam where regular people pay while rich people and corporations get exemptions, forget it. Nobody's buying in. So where does that leave us? Honestly, some days I feel completely hopeless. The scale is so massive, the politics are so broken, the trade-offs are so brutal. But then I remember something my daughter said last month. She's 8, and she asked me why grown-ups made such a mess of the planet. I didn't have a good answer, but I told her we were trying to fix it. She looked at me seriously and said, "Well, you better try harder." Out of the mouths of babes, right? But she's not wrong. The trying harder part isn't about metal straws or shorter showers. It's about electing people who understand that climate change is the defining challenge of our time. It's about supporting technologies that seem expensive now but won't be forever. It's about changing how we think about growth, progress, and what it means to live well. Most importantly, it's about admitting that individual action alone won't save us, but individual action multiplied by 8 billion people might. Every choice creates a market signal. Every vote sends a message. Every conversation changes minds. Climate change feels impossible because it is impossible for any one person to solve alone. But 8 billion people acting together? That's not impossible. That's how we built civilization in the first place. The most human thing we can do is try anyway, even when we're not sure it'll work. Especially then.